Hello, I'm Mixed Tectonicus, and this is episode 3 of Channeled Poetry, a space for poetry and imagery and time and place to interact in curious ways. So for this episode, I want to focus on bringing you some poetic performances, 2 that were filmed in the past month and 1 live performance here in anticipation of an upcoming show. So last week, the Sea Witch, currently known as Moss Hope Angel, came to teach a workshop on writing with dreams. We met up at a park near the Snake Bridge, and I ended up sustaining another hand injury, this time on my left hand, trying to climb amongst a sea of prickly pears and falling down on top of them. So we found a sandy area to stand in instead, talking about the sensation of crunching sand between our toes. So while you're watching this, maybe imagine laying in the sand with bare feet, digging in. And heads up, this poem contains some graphic sexual imagery. Here you go.
Hi, my name is Moss Angel, and I am going to read a piece for you called Bone Death Excrement. This piece is a piece from a series of books I'm writing called Sea Witch, and it is about 2 characters named God Witch and Airless Face Witch, who are relatives of the titular Sea Witch. Yeah, I think I'm just gonna dive in. Here we go. Bone Death Excrement. God Witch and Airless Face Witch are twins. They are deformed like monsters because they are monsters, but they are beautiful like gods because they are gods. In this scene, they are walking down a path in a forest in the middle of who knows where. They don't remember how they got there because the sacraments they took make them bad at remembering things like this. They're wearing tiny shirts that show their bellies and underwear without pants. When they walk, their beautiful sweat-covered legs whisper through the grass. Insects bite their ankles, and with each bite they pray to their gods and all their friends. These prayers are wordless, but express thankfulness in some form, because the bugs are gods, and flesh is a holy offering. Or at least this is how it seems. Someone is calling me.
Do you need to get it?
I don't think so. I want to find out who it is.
Yeah.
Hello? These prayers are wordless, but express thankfulness in some form because the bugs are gods and flesh is a holy offering, or at least this is how it seems to them in this moment because they are super fucked up on sacraments. They arrive in a clearing where there are 2 adorable monsters having a picnic. One of them is super tall with dark skin, dark eyes, dark hair. All of the magic is in her. The other is formless. The other is a ghost. The other is a cloud of vapor. The other is a swarm turned on by the wasps and sits down against a tree, spreading her legs and taking her cock out and pissing all over herself. Her clothes smell like piss, and the wasps come to her, stinging her cock and her face and her curvy ass and her soft asshole as she lifts her legs into the air above her. Her junk is all hairy and sweaty and covered in piss, and she comes super fast. While this happens, Airless Face Witch and the first monster stand around awkwardly. It's super weird, and so they decide to give Godwitch and the second monster some space. They take a walk. They talk about their friends. They talk about their relationships to other people in their lives. Airless Face Witch says that things between her and Godwitch are hard to understand these days. They used to do everything together, and there were no questions about it, but lately things have been difficult. She says it feels like everything is on fast forward, and she can't seem to adapt. Like, Godwitch joined a sex cult recently, where they all get together and have super steamy hot sex with each other, like, all the fucking time, and she's always talking about this sex cult. Airless Face Witch is, like, pretty down for sex cults, but she tried to go there, to the building where the sex cult was, and the door was this enormous puzzle. She couldn't figure out how it worked. She tried for a little bit to figure it out and got tired and fell asleep on the porch, and Godwitch came out all sexed up and was like, holy shit, that was hot. And Airless Face Witch was like, oh sweet, I'm glad you had a good time. I don't know, Airless Face Witch said. The first monster listened to all of this quietly and nodded along. When Airless Face Witch was done, she told her a story. The story had no arc. In the story, things happened and then stopped happening. There didn't seem to be any connection between the pieces in the story, except that the same names were mentioned. The concrete details of this story seemed false. Parts were overly obvious. There was one part with the sex cult, but the sex cult was a branch on a tree that was blown into the ocean. The ocean took the branch far away. The ocean fell away from the branch, and the branch was suspended in non-matter. Time backed up and moved forward arbitrarily. It sped up and slowed down. This story never ended. The story was all endings. It ended 20, 30 times. Airless Face Witch wrote a blog about this story while it was happening, recapping different episodes. The blog became very popular, and then the blogging platform it was on fell into disuse. Nobody reads out of the story like a summer child in the wrong swimsuit, diving, climbing out, diving, climbing out. This child never gets tired. The first monster changes her clothes. They both change their clothes. They take off their clothes and put on each other's clothes. They forget whose are whose. They move in. They fall in love. They have a relationship that lasts 2 years and then gets complicated. One of them wants to see other people. One of them becomes a rat. One of them doesn't want to date a rat anymore. They forget which one is a rat. It isn't clear which one is a rat. They see the bodies of people they have never met being torn limb from limb in a void made of 10,000 mile-per-hour winds that blow in all directions. They cry for their relationship. They cry for the end of the story. The end of the story never comes, though. They both become a rat. They both become half of the same rat. They both live in the walls of the story. They both eat the insulation. They both eat the insulation. The atoms that make up the story grow more still than ever because the story gets colder without insulation. The atoms that make up the story are harmless. They try on their sister's clothes when no one is home. They panic when they hear the garage door. They never get caught. They come out at 29. Their first marriage was a mess. They made a mess of a lot of things, some of which have to do with that marriage, but most of which are about other things. It's too fast. It's all too fast. The story is falling with no destination. It falls and falls in an arc around a circular surface that turns at a rate which matches its falling. The surface's gravity is immense. The falling happens too fast. Things fall past the story, and the story just barely keeps up. It does the things it needs to do to live a life, but just barely. It misses a few, but mostly it gets it. It all moves by so fast. It needs a second to rest. The story needs to end.
Thank you, Moss Hope Angel. So the next video I want to share is of Vanessa Angélica Villarreal, and it's a poem. It's the last poem of the night that she performed at a reading a few weeks ago at Casa Libre. Vanessa recently came out with a book called Beast Meridian, and here's a quote from her about the book in an interview titled, "The Future of Poetry is Brown and Queer." She says, "Beast Meridian started as a project of trying to write myself into existence. I remember reading a lot of Chicanek's work and feeling like it was so varied, what every poet and every writer was trying to do with their books. Yet it all gets lumped together as this documentarian project of, this is how my abuela was, or this is how it felt like to be poor, and this is what it felt like to do this. Especially when it comes to writing about identity and history and family, Chicanek's and Latinx work across the board gets unfairly overlooked because people have certain expectations about that. I wanted to create a project that was rooted in place, was rooted in the act of remembering and misremembering, in the act of creating your own narrative from the ruins of erasure, and of mapping the emotional textures of that instead of trying to access real memories. Because those memories are eroding quickly, and what the missing feels like, what the longing and the memory feels like, that is what I wanted to capture formally and through the strangeness of language. So with that, here's Vanessa's performance.
0 1 0 1 0 1 0 1 0 1 0 1 0 1 0 1 0 1 0 1 0 1 0 1 0 1 0 1 0 1. Shut down, restart. Buscándote abro la boca y de allí florecen las letras. No me olvides. Sí, no, adiós. Oremos, Madre Santísima, Madre Bellísima, Madre que sufre, arrodillada te ruego, perdidas in memory's purgatory, their forms persist in the fog, the fountain loops time through the waters, tiempo, tempo. A moment suspends an overcast iron sun, tiempo parado. Abuelas, how can I stop losing you? Tías, how do I stop losing you? Amor eterno e inolvidable. Eco, hecho, tú eres la tristeza de mis ojos. Forgotten. Me miro en el espejo y veo mi rostro, el tiempo que he sufrido por tu adiós. Erased. Yo he sufrido tanto por tu ausencia. Absence. What has time taken with it? ¿Qué ha ocultado el tiempo? Nada. 0 1 0 1 0 1 0 1. Nadie. Hypothesis for the erased. The boats arrive. Salobre, brackish. Debajo de las olas, corriente de lágrimas, manos debajo del agua, the salt, vientre de la tierra, golfo de memoria. In mathematical terms, the subject is canceled out. Of a body split by a river. of a mind split by a country, of a mother split by a child, of a chromosome split by a price. Oremos, Madre Santísima, Madre Bellísima, Madre que sufre, arrodillada te ruego. In womb song, the egg hatches stars vain to yoke the heart and the brain. The egg absorbs el ojo, the curse a mute white mouth, víbora en agua. Still, I drag my memory across the sky, parse the texts there. What hunger! I open myself to restore my lengua, the language of a defiant tissue. And when I open me for baby Boca, he takes my milk maíz. I unborder my longing, deseo el pasado, its defiant tongue, and in that dream, a text. I reclaim, reach back to find myself, drag the river to recover the drowned, parse the remains to make legible the wound, their sacrifice. I am untying the loops of violence that scaffold my spine, dream again of gods and the wolves, and in my blood, a code of constellations. I seek my disappeared through your loveliest gated gardens, find their footprints on your shimmering floors. I invent this text in vain. Oremos, Madre Santísima, Madre Bellísima, Madre que sufre. Run, terminal. Last login, Monday, February 15th on console. To actuate, open, Vanessa Angélica Villarreal. Bash, command not found. To actuate, open, Vanessa Angélica Villarreal. Bash, file not found. To actuate, open, Angélica Maria Lopez. Bash, fatal error, unable to process your request. To actuate, open, Vanessa Angélica Villarreal. Bash, insufficient memory.
Thank you to Vanessa, and thank you to Sally Roundhouse of Casa Libre for hosting that show and for sharing this video. And I've got one more performance for you by Aura Valdes, who's here in the studio for a live performance. Aura will be performing on February 1st at an event called The Poetics of Listening, a community harmonic, along with myself, Kristen Nelson, Sophia Terazawa, Jane Moore, and Claire Hong Weshke. We will each be presenting original work based on HARK listening sessions. And HARK is an ensemble of theater and art makers committed to the practice of mindful encounter with the community for the purpose of listening, archiving, and devising new performance works from shared responses to critical social, political, and philosophical questions. I asked Aura to share something today in anticipation of the show, although this performance today is not what will be performed at the show. I actually have no idea what's about to happen right now. So here's Aura.
I look at performance as something of an improv, something as stepping on stones. I look at improv as something of a performance, and I said something of stepping on stones. But something of the feet has not felt so steady lately. I took some trips of traveling, and it was a year of unexpected things. It was a year of something of blinding. It was a year of something of committing from a coffee shop. I took my time, and I said I will commit, I will broadcast. I will broadcast through black lines, through something that I did not know what I was stepping into. It was something beyond improv. It was something beyond everything that I thought I'd commit to, except for I did not know that she would leave. I didn't know that she would leave long before I was ready. Even though it was a year, I wasn't ready. So there I was, my heart pounding. I had proclaimed in a coffee shop, I will be here. I will put the sides, I will put my time, I will put the sides of all of this, and I will hold in my hand. And so I went, and I bought plane tickets upon plane tickets, and I grabbed myself in my heart, and I laid down, and I reached out, and back and forth across the country, I said, I will drag whatever it is and bring it onto the stage. And here, with my heart racing, I said to myself, I will bring it here. But instead, I dragged it all with me. I dragged it all with me, and I tried to push it down, and I dragged it all with me. It was said in lines of communication, I don't think I can do this, I don't think I can do this. I would come back down, and I sat next to you, and your bones and your skin, it withered, and in the rain, your bones and your skin, it withered, and in the rain, I wrapped my arms around you, and it was a body, and it was a mother that I had not yet felt before, and I said throughout the whole time, I would not say your name, I would only spell the words, I would not say your name, I would only spell the words. And halfway into the year, I knew I had to come back more often. And it's something of words like a curve and an S. And I said I knew I had to come back, so I saved my pennies. I said I would do whatever it was that I had to do because I had to wrap my arms around you. And still the year was coming, and it was around and around. And I said, whimsical, I will buy you whimsical things. I will make all of it come together. And I said, just stay, just make it long enough. But instead, it kept rising. Instead, I dragged all of my stones back with me. And then, I don't want to say it, but then the truth was you were gone. And then it fell into the place, caught in my throat like every bad movie says. You were gone. And he said, the ground sinks. He said the ground sinks, and there I was following you in that box where I said, where were you? It was the box, and I followed the men, and they said, you are not wanted here, and they closed the door. And so here I am, a year later, miles across, and the ground is sinking. Miles across, and the ground is sinking, and some days, just like the cliche in the movies, I pull back the covers, going like this, shaking the sweat off me, and it doesn't matter because I'm dragging all of it with me. She said, you're gonna do this. She said, you're gonna do this. You're gonna drag it all with you. So here I am, blazing lights, looking up to the sky, and I said, she knows. And here I am, dragging it all with me.
Thank you, Aura. Thank you, Aura, for that. Yeah, I'm amazed how that just came out of you. That was all improvised, by the way. So if you'd like to check out the show on February 1st, it's going to be taking place at 7 p.m. at the YWCA. It's a $10 donation, but no one turned away for lack of funds. And here's a few other events coming up. This Sunday, January 28th, CA Conrad, one of my favorite poets, is going to be reading at Casa Libre, 6:30 p.m., and that's a $5 suggested donation. Saturday, February 10th, Casa Libre is hosting a reading by Wendy C. Ortiz and Melanie C. Madden at the Southern Arizona Workspace at XO Coffee. That's 7 p.m. and free. And also Saturday, February 10th is QTPOC Fest. That's Queer Trans People of Color Fest, and it's a group space, intention, and feeling that celebrates art, identity, and the beautiful differences that encompass the lives of queer and trans people of color. There will be QTPOC music, poetry, and movement with free food, workshops, craft activities, and a QTPOC-only dance party. The event starts at 3 p.m., and you can learn more about the event on their Facebook page. And Aura will also be performing at that event. So I do a poetic prompt every episode, and it's an invitation for anyone viewing to participate and also to share whatever they come up with. They can send it to me at channeledpoetry@gmail.com, and I will share one of the responses at the show. So I'd love to see what you come up with. This is a prompt that I took from CA Conrad's website, and they do a thing called somatic exercises. I won't even try to explain what it is. I'll just give you this one, and you'll have to see for yourself. But so this is called TV Birth Portal, and this is what was written on their website. For this ritual, I looked for a television show that was on the air before and after I was born. The one I chose was Bewitched. The short description for the show is, A witch, Samantha Stevens, married to an ordinary man, Darren Stevens, cannot resist using her magic powers to solve the problems her family faces. I climbed naked into a large plastic bag filled with salt water to watch the episodes prior to my birth on January 1st, 1966. Ironically, the episode that aired immediately after my birth on January 6th, 1966, finds Samantha pregnant. Her annoying husband, Darren, does not want her using her magic powers to clean the house, and he doesn't want her lifting heavy objects until the baby is born, so he hires a maid. This is the first episode I get to watch outside the plastic bag of warm salted water, Reborn and Bewitched. I hate this television show, although to be fair, I hate most of them. The only character in Bewitched I like is Endora, Samantha's mother. Endora has no interest in being told by any man that she should give up her magic powers. She is the only character worth their salt in this tedious, badly written show. I agree with everything she says. After all, if Darren had the magic powers instead of Samantha, do you think he would choose to not use them? Darren is nothing more than an insecure man who feels emasculated by Samantha's powers. Fuck Darren, he's a jerk who doesn't deserve Samantha or her divine abilities. Endora should be a role model for us all to never give up our power. Power keepers. So that's what CA wrote on their website. And I'm going to leave it up to you to decipher and interpret that and create your own version of a TV birth portal. I hope you have fun with that. And again, you can send any poetry that comes out of that to channeledpoetry@gmail.com. And I want to close out the show with a song by one of Moss Hope Angel's great inspirations, the timeless Sun Ra, and it's a song called Satellites Are Spinning. Goodbye.
The satellite is spinning. always say